Hello and happy holidays. It is Best Available Podcast, episode 21, our final episode of 2020. And this is always a kind of a bittersweet time. Even in a year like this, the holiday season brings so much fun, so much joy, optimism, what other adjectives you'd like to use. But then at the end of it, you're excited because you can flip that calendar to the next year in about a week. And especially this year, I think that's something we all need. We just need a fresh start. And obviously, the end number of the year changing from 0 to 1, that's not going to magically fix everything. But it's just hard to see 2021 being as difficult of a year as 2020 was. So hopefully, there's some better things coming on the horizon. But I'm here with Matt. We're not taking a bye week. We have some other things going on the site that they are kind of waiting till 2021, which is understandable, but we decided to just keep going strong. We have not missed a week yet. So, Matt, it is December 28th. So how was your holiday season?
It was very festive, very different, obviously, because we can't really see family. Um, we usually had bigger family gatherings, didn't do any of that. So by the end of it, we meaning my parents and I were all kind of sick of each other, just from being in the house so much. But we made it special, had a lot of good meals. Had Christmas Eve. We got, I guess you would call it catered, but we got it from free ad space here for Abruzzi's in 38 in Mount Laurel. Nice Italian marketplace. Got some nice stuff there. Christmas Day had a nice meal as well. And yeah, so a lot of good food. Watched some NBA basketball. So that, Ryan, was a nice return to normalcy at least a little bit, right? Christmas somewhat felt normal. You had NBA on Christmas Day. Like everyone's home and safe. But so that was a nice little dash of feeling normal. But it was all right. It was all right. Brian, we're going to start a record label, apparently, as we transition to your holiday season.
Yeah, mine, it was good. I agree with you. And I imagine for most other people, it was the same way. It was different. This entire year has been different for a lot of ways, but I think a lot of people, if for whatever reason they didn't feel it the previous 8.5 months, they definitely felt it during the holiday season when you couldn't be around people you're normally around. You couldn't really do a lot of the things you normally could do, and that's myself and my family included. But we still found ways to just enjoy it, and it still had that kind of magical feeling that the holiday season always brings, even though it was a little different. But yeah, I did get a guitar, so over the course of 2020, because I had nothing else to do, I listened to a lot of music, and I've always kind of wanted to learn the guitar, but this seemed like a great time to finally pick it up. So I did get a guitar. I got a Telecaster, and I've been practicing it each day since I got it. It's been very exciting, just trying to learn as much as I can. I said in my Instagram post that I'm going to release a single in 2023 or 2024, and I stand by that. I'm serious. It's going to happen. So it's cool though. It's fun. It was a cool gift. And I'm very excited that I'll have something to keep myself occupied and just try to learn new skills and stuff. It's always cool. It's always fun. But Matt, the snow's finally gone. We talked about this last week. The snow is still on the ground. It's finally gone. And now the sun is actually out. It's 50 degrees outside. It's a beautiful day. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, we're going to be in the 50s pretty much all week in late December, which is balmy to say the least. But it was nice. It really didn't feel like Christmas, Ryan. It really didn't feel like the holidays just because we couldn't really go out and the temperatures were kind of warm. It was like 60 degrees both days, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That's been a trend the past couple of years, at least for us. I don't know how it is for other people in the state or the region, but a couple of years ago, if you remember, it was like 70 degrees one of those days. So it's been, a little bit warmer, which was nice. I wore shorts and went for a walk, which was nice. But I guess it comes, with the less of the holiday spirit. It doesn't feel like when you turn on a Hallmark Christmas movie and there's snow on the ground. I mean, we had snow on the ground for a while, but it was more of like, get out of here snow. It wasn't like stay here for the holiday kind of snow. But Yeah, now we're back to tropical weather here, which is nice. Going to go for a walk in shorts after we record this.
Yeah, it's as Matt said, the weather outlook it does not look favorable for snow, at least in the short term. So at least we got that one nice little winter feel a few weeks ago when it snowed more than it was supposed to where we live. And if that's all we get, then that's all we get. But
I would much rather get it in December when I'm in the holiday cold weather spirit, Ryan. In the month of January and February, I'm always rooting for warmer weather. Like, and you know me, I used to wear shorts all the time at school, going back to when we were younger. I was one of those guys. Yes, the people that get memed on Twitter, I was one of those guys, and I still am one of those guys. I will admit it. But I will always root for warmer weather now. So I'm sorry, Ryan. I have defected from the snow family. I am now on the let's get to March and spring training bandwagon.
yeah, I said this on Twitter, and it was a little polarizing of a take a couple months ago. I had winter as my third favorite season above summer, and I stand by that. Fall and spring are light years better for multiple reasons, but I've always liked winter. Just I don't know. Like I know everybody hates the cold and the wind chills, and a lot of people don't like the snow and all the things that come with winter. The short days, the sun's not out for a long time. It's overcast a lot. I get it, but I don't know. I've always liked winter. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was born in the winter or what, but I've always liked the winter a lot. So I always enjoy this time of year. I try to make the most of it. And I agree, though. It's nice to kind of just envision, at least in the past. I don't know what it's going to be like this year, but it's just seeing the baseball teams go down for spring training in Florida or Arizona, and just the weather's nicer. It brings you a little warmth. I don't know how it's going to be this year. I don't know what the plan is for that, but listen, I guess we're only 3 months away. We're only 2 months away from NASCAR coming back, which is exciting. So we'll get to hear me talk about NASCAR in 2 months. So that'll be fun. But we got some fun stuff on tap. We have NFL. We got 1 week left. And the playoff picture is becoming more clear as the weeks have gone on. We have 3 teams that have clinched a spot in the AFC, 5 teams in the NFC. We had some big baseball news come out last night. We had some big baseball news come out today. So for the first time in a while, we'll get to talk about Major League Baseball. We didn't get to do our Disney Plus and Glen last week in lieu of our holiday special. So we will get back on that train this week. And we'll have some other fun stuff as well. So NFL, Matt, both of our teams are eliminated, sadly. But I think that's for the better. I'd rather watch some entertaining teams in January as opposed to watching the New England Patriots or Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs this year, the way those teams have looked. So we'll start in the AFC. It's the same case as last week. The Chiefs, Steelers, and Bills have all clinched. The Steelers and the Bills have clinched their division. The Chiefs have clinched that valued number 1 seed. Of course, there's only one team that gets home field this year, and the Chiefs were that team, so they not only get to avoid playing in the first round, that's what I meant, the first round bye, so not just home field. So the Chiefs not only get to avoid playing in the first round, the Steelers now, who were neck and neck with them for a while, they'll have to face a tough team. I mean, this is a wild AFC playoff race for the final week of the season. We have 5 teams at 10-5 right now, and it's going to be exciting. So we've talked about this playoff race a little bit more than the NFC for the past several weeks of the season. What do you envision happening, Matt? Because I think we're both in agreement the Titans are going to make it in. I'd be surprised if they missed out. They still haven't clinched yet, but it'd be real difficult to see them not making it. So then it kind of comes down to the group of 4 with Miami, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Indianapolis. So which team out of that group do you think is going to be on the outside looking in this time next week?
I mean, what I hope, and you and I talked about this right before we did this, I kind of hope Indy's on the outside, or at least one of the AFC South teams, just because you mentioned it, they don't really have enough on offense. I don't think either of them do. So from a pure entertainment perspective, Ryan, I'm going to say whichever. I'm going to say the Colts on the outside. For whatever reason, the Titans are on the outside looking in. Just we need one of those teams to miss because I think Baltimore. I've been pounding my fist on this podcast for the past couple of weeks. Baltimore is really turning the corner, peaking at the right time. I said they're going to try and sneak in, and I think they're probably going to. I mean, they've had a really easy schedule, and they're taking care of business. Cleveland obviously had a bit of a rough patch yesterday. I think even with the Colts, Ryan, I mean, I think the team in most danger of dropping out is the Browns, right? I mean, because Pittsburgh still has to play for something next week because of matchup concerns. Like, I would imagine getting the 2 seed. I mean, I don't even think that makes much of a difference because all these teams at the bottom, as you said, are 10-plus win teams. So I don't even think for Pittsburgh, that's just more playing for pride and not playing like crap like they have for the past month.
It's difficult this season because normally if you're in that top 3 seeds, you kind of have an idea of, I mean, maybe not in the past, but this year in particular, you would have kind of expected to know who you might play in the wild card round of the playoffs, but you don't know that this year. Even as a 2 seed, you really don't know who it's looking like you're going to play because you have 5 teams, as I said, at 10-5. You could play against any one of those teams, so it's not. They can't just be like, okay, well, we're not going to come out and blatantly lose so we can play this team. So we're going to maybe not play our starters as long. Like, you don't know who you're going to play. So it's tough in that regard. I will say the schedule favors the Ravens because they play the Bengals at 4-10-1. You take a look at the Dolphins. They're going to have a very tough go of it because they have to travel to Buffalo to play the Bills, who, like the Steelers, are still playing for something. I don't know what difference the 2 and the 3 seed will make this year, as you alluded to, but it might make some type of a difference. So that'll be tough for Miami to go on the road the final week of the season, a team that's not really built. They don't have that experience yet, so this was kind of be a pseudo playoff game for them. You take a look at the Colts; they get to play the 1-14 Jacksonville Jaguars. It'd be real tough to see them losing that, but I mean, we've seen the Jets win 2 in a row, so I mean, anything can happen. So I agree with you. I hope somehow that the Colts don't make it, because I don't think they're going to be an entertaining team. I don't think they have the juice on offense. I don't think they have the. I love Phillip Rivers. I've loved him forever. He's not leading them anywhere. He got them to a strong double-digit win regular season, but that's it. So it'll be exciting to follow along, though. But, Matt, we talked about this a little bit in the past. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Because it seems hard to believe that any of these teams are going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC playoffs, especially now that the Chiefs have home field.
Well, I saw some pretty bad takes yesterday saying that, Kansas City kind of needed that because of the way they played against Atlanta and, some of the past couple games. They're by far the best team. I don't look at how they barely beat New Orleans, or just because they're playing close games doesn't mean they're not dominant or playing well. I would almost argue that their ability to win close games makes them more, in position to make a run in the postseason, because they've won a lot of one-possession games over the past month and a half, but they don't have to. You have to make the New England Patriots as an outlier. Not everyone is going to dominate like they did for as long as they did. Kansas City's 14-1, and people are going to look, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying, "Oh, well, they won a lot of close games." Doesn't matter. They're by far the best team in football. I think you and I agree on this. They just have so much talent. They can explode at any point. Some of these games might look closer than they are, like especially the Buccaneers game, because they kind of got a lot of garbage time points to make that margin closer. So Kansas City by far. A lot of this doesn't matter. I think you're right. I think only a couple teams can really put up a fight to Kansas City. And right now, I would say those teams would be Buffalo and Baltimore. I don't see anyone else putting up much of a fight.
Yeah, that's probably how I see it too. I really like to think Tennessee could maybe make it close, but the way the Chiefs have played this year, I agree. I think from a pure matchup perspective, the way that the teams play, I think Buffalo and Baltimore are the only two teams that would be able to knock them off. And even then, I I'm not going to bet against Reed and the Chiefs. It's not the smart thing to do. Until they give me a reason not to believe in them, I'm gonna just ride them to the Super Bowl. So in the AFC, the number one seed is clinched. In the NFC, it's a little different. Whereas in the AFC, a lot of the fun playoff race stuff is at the back end with the five teams at 10-5. In the NFC, the number one seed is still up for grabs. The Packers right now have a one game lead over the Saints and the Seahawks, and that game that the Saints lost to the Philadelphia Eagles is proving more and more to be a major issue for that team. They would have been in contention for home field, and I guess they still are, but they're one game back, and you just kind of wonder what could have possibly been. We talked about for the past month or so how the Saints, if they wanted to make a run, they really needed home field, and it doesn't seem like they're going to get it. But I don't know. We'll see. So you have Green Bay 12-3. You have New Orleans right now is the 2 seed at 11-4. You have Seattle at 11-4, and Tampa Bay right now has clinched a wild card spot. They are at 10-5. So you have Washington right now in the lead for the NFC East with two other teams right behind them. You have the Rams still in the playoff race. They haven't clinched, and I'm going to give myself credit. I got out ahead of this a week ago. The Chicago Bears right now hold the 7 seed at 8-7. So you have Arizona now on the outside looking in. So let's talk about this. Can Arizona jump back in? Or is this going to be Chicago and LA getting the final 2 wildcard spots?
Well, Ryan, if you asked me 2 months ago, would we be talking about Mitch Trubisky contract extension talks? I mean, I would have thought you were crazy. It's crazy to think that the Bears, after the way they played, really ever since the beginning of October, to have them in this position is just insane to think. But when you sit there and you mentioned it, the NFC is kind of top heavy. Do I think either of these teams are really going to make an impact on the playoffs? No. I know our friend Zach Cousins is very anti-Kyler and anti-Arizona. I still would rather have them in just for the sake of watchability, right? You know how you mentioned that both of us are on the outside looking in. Arizona, we want them in the playoffs over Chicago, but LA, there's questions with Jared Goff now too, Ryan, with his thumb or finger or something. I don't even know who their backup is, so that'll add some great theater to week 17 if that's the case. But yeah, Chicago, I guess, Ryan, I will give you credit. You were on top of that one. You made a face. Who's the backup quarterback?
It's John Wolford. I hate to sound uninformed, but I honestly can't tell you who this guy is. It says he's in his first season out of Wake Forest. I hate to sound uninformed. I really try to be as informed as possible, but I honestly have no idea who this guy is. I don't know what he can do. I don't know if he would be good, if he needed to get in for the Rams at this point, but...
Well, we've kind of seen how the Rams were the past couple weeks with Jared Goff. I mean, you got to think that. I mean, that puts a lot more pressure on Chicago to win because you got to imagine Arizona, that's like a can't-miss win for them. I kind of find it hard to believe they're going to lose to John, what was his name, Wolford?
Yeah.
Wofford? I mean, Wofford's a college.
It is.
But I after hearing that name, Ryan, if that guy's got to start, I mean, I'm gonna hammer Arizona as that 7 seed. Chicago is going to have to play against Green Bay, and Green Bay has to play for something.
Yeah.
They can't just sit Aaron Rodgers and play Jordan Love. I mean, they got to still play. Because we talked about it, getting that 1 seed and going through Lambeau makes them a lot more dangerous than if they had to go on the road, at least in my opinion. We've talked about that before. So Green Bay's going to really go out there and try to win that game. So if you're asking me who's going to get in, I think Chicago's in a very difficult spot as opposed to Arizona.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just It's hard to see, as you said. It's hard to even though Chicago's home, it's hard to see them holding off Green Bay, who's fighting for the 1 seed still. Um, it's hard to envision that. You got to imagine New Orleans is going to win to improve to 12-4, playing against a Carolina team that they did put up a good performance against Washington, but New Orleans is a different animal. So yeah, I would. It's weird to say it because the way the Cardinals have played recently, especially they looked bad against San Francisco. Cliff Kingsbury is his seat has just been getting hotter and hotter as the weeks have gone on. It just seems like they're in the best position. I agree. So we'll see though. I mean, we've been wrong before. We could be wrong again when we talk about the playoff matchups this time next week. But the only other thing to figure out in the NFC, Matt, is the NFC East. And because of the way the games went yesterday, because of the fact that Washington lost to Carolina and Philadelphia lost to Dallas, we have 3 teams still alive in this awful division. Which I don't know how that happened. We have Dallas and the Giants who are going to be playing at 1 p.m. And if whoever wins that game, they might be in position to win the division because for whatever reason, the NFL thought it would be a phenomenal idea to put the 6-9 Washington football team on Sunday night against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 4-10-1 and currently hold the 6th pick in the NFL draft. That was the game they decided to flex to Sunday night. I don't know why they didn't keep both of the games at 1. I really don't think anybody cares about this Washington and Eagles game. I know I don't. But who comes out of this division, Matt? I'm going to say, I said this in our group chat. I'd love for it to be the Giants because I'd love the optics of a 6-10 team hosting a playoff game while a double-digit team in the AFC gets left out. But I feel like Washington, I mean, all they have to do is win and they're in, and they're playing the worst team in the division. It's hard for me to see Washington with all the quarterback question marks aside, it's hard for me not to see Washington come into Philadelphia and clinch the division.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that ESPN's going to get this first wild card game, right? This is going to be the Steve Levy game. Always a running joke that it was the 4 seed with the Texans for a while. I really think ESPN's going to get stuck with this one. I said Washington for a while, Ryan. I've been on the Washington train for a couple weeks. But I might say Dallas. I really might. And that
you got out ahead of this. You got out ahead of this last week too. You said you think Dallas is in a good position to win the division, and you were right.
I mean, from a pure perspective of just like guys that a casual NFL fan can actually recognize, right? I mean, Dallas by far has the most of those people. And in this division, that actually matters, right? I could sit there and give you all kinds of like statistical information or like X's and O's, but in this division, I'm just picking purely based on name value. I really am. This is the most casual fan I'm going to sound. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like Washington, is Alex Smith healthy? Like, is he really going to go out there and I'm not saying he's going to lose the game, but like if he can't go, it's Taylor Heineke, right? Or whatever his name is, Heineke. And he doesn't really do anything for me. I think Jalen Hurts can put up a good fight against that defense. Obviously, despite how things went yesterday, even though, Ryan, he threw for over 300 yards. I don't know why he made some mistakes, but it's also his 3rd game, right? So I don't really know why he took so much heat. And you just made a gesture there to agree with me. I think we need to table that and address that after this point. But sorry, Glenn, and sorry to any of the Washington fans that I know. I'm going to take the Cowboys, just purely based on the fact that their quarterback is the best out of the 3. And that's not saying much. And again, Cowboys fans, if you're listening and you know who you are, don't get ahead of yourself and say that Andy Dalton is the guy, just because he's going to lead you to the playoffs at 7-9. He's not. He's a backup. Even though I would love for Andy Dalton to start if it's between Andy Dalton and Cam Newton on the Patriots, but he's not the future. He's not the guy. So just want to get out ahead on that take as well, Ryan, but I'm taking Dallas.
I could see that happening. I mean, This needs to be
And
prefaced by saying that the Eagles defense had nobody yesterday, but the Cowboys offense has some players. And if they sneak in and they play Tampa Bay wild card, we could
well,
maybe.
Ryan,
I don't know.
you know that Roger is rooting for Brady versus Jerry World. You know he's really pulling for that matchup. Like that would be the best case scenario because they could let in 30,000 fans during a pandemic like they've been doing and really generate some revenue from that game. That won't be on ESPN, that's for
No.
sure if that's the case.
That's the NBC. That would be the NBC game. I feel like that. That's funny how one team would change what network the game is on. But yeah, Dallas has as good of a chance as anybody. I mean, as I said, I need to preface it by saying the Eagles' defense had nobody, but it was impressive to see what their offense was able to do. They still had to make the plays that were out there, and they did. So
We got to also remember that Andy Dalton almost had his head taken off and then got COVID right after being thrusted in with kind of a different preseason after Dak got hurt for the whole year, right? So, I mean, it's going to take time for him to settle in. We kind of critiqued his play at the beginning of the year, and I still am not here going to anoint him the starting quarterback of the Cowboys next year. But he's kind of coming into form now just because it's been kind of a crazy offseason, not really any OTAs or anything for him to work with these people. So they're kind of coming around right now. And I mean, granted, they're not really beating the best teams, right? You're beating Cincinnati, great. You beat San Francisco without half their team, and then you beat the Eagles, but those are still 3 wins. And they scored over 30 points in all 3 games. So
I will say from a biased perspective, I usually don't like. I just want to say from an Eagles fan perspective, I would like to see the Cowboys have the 19th pick or so in the NFL draft and have to play a first place schedule next year, as opposed to a team like Washington or the Giants having to do that. So, I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of intrigue.
yeah, and I think in Glenn's kind of come around on this too of, as a Giants fan, getting that top 10 pick as opposed to really dropping to, what would it be, like 19? Like, I mean, that for the Giants, I mean, and I've said this to Glenn too, I mean, they're not too far away from being a pretty good team. Them and Washington. I think they're farther ahead than the other 2 teams in the division because Dallas is missing just execution, decision making, a lot of things that aren't player wise. But I think for Giants fans, the best case scenario would be to get that top 10 pick. And I know it's a running joke because we know people who, and I mean, obviously, we talked about this last week with the Jets too, Ryan. You don't want your team to openly lose, but the benefits are much different here for these teams as opposed to would be for the Jets, in my opinion at least, because the Jets have a quarterback. And I know I'm going to take heat for saying that take as well because of the Sam Darnold to Trevor Lawrence comparison, but a top 10 player for the Giants will make a big difference, I think.
I would, and maybe that top 10 player is a quarterback. We don't know, but every team in this division is going to have to evaluate their quarterback position this offseason. I mean, there's definitely a scenario where all 4 of these teams have a different quarterback going into next season, but that's a conversation for a different day. Although, Matt, you said we needed to table something until we got through the playoffs. The amount of people with the unoriginal take after the Eagles lost yesterday of, oh, this game was Carson's fault, clearly. Carson needed to be benched so the team could see what they had in Jalen Hurts. Carson did not deserve to keep the starting quarterback job because he was, by all measures, all statistics, all efficiency ratings, one of, if not the worst quarterback in the NFL this season. Keeping Carson in the final month of the season would not have accomplished anything. The people saying that was all Carson's fault, I agree. Those people are wrong. The way this team has played, it's not all Carson's fault. But part of it was Carson's fault. He was part of the problem. If Carson was just below average this year, the Eagles would be in the playoffs. But he wasn't below average. He was awful. He was what Josh Allen has been the past couple years. A guy playing H-back, an H-back playing quarterback. That's what Carson was. So don't think that you got your gotcha moment by saying, "Oh, this was obviously Carson's fault." Just stop. Just that irked me so much. And we also
I feel bad.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel bad for Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
Every mistake he makes is going to be linked to Carson Wentz.
It's a shame. Like after that safety they had against the Cardinals last week early in the game, the amount of Wentz fans that came out the woodwork, that was Wentz's fault, right? I think people forget that this is a guy who, I'm talking about Hurts, he's a rookie who has to, he was thrust into this undesirable situation from the moment he was drafted, and it got even worse as the season progressed. And now this was a guy making his third NFL start on the road in Dallas. I think number one, people expected a little too much out of him. But I think people also need to remember this was a guy who, as I said, was making his third start. He's going to make mistakes. Carson Wentz had a great first 3-game run his rookie season, and then that game against Detroit, and then later on as the season progressed, he made mistakes. He made a lot of mistakes. So to expect Jalen Hurts to be flawless, that wasn't fair to him, and that wasn't fair. It seems like all the Wentz fans don't want to give this guy a chance, which is a shame. This Eagles fan base has become now divided. You got it. We're not just Eagles fans anymore. Now you have Wentz fans on one side. You have what, if you want to call them Wentz detractors. You have Hurts fans, whatever you want to call them, on the other side. And now we're no longer rooting for the team. We're rooting for the quarterbacks, which is a really bad place to be as a fan base. So I hope going into next year, the team develops some type of new culture. The fan base grows the hell up and starts supporting the team again, and doesn't just defend a guy for literally not doing anything. And just hopefully we can get back to being a respectable football organization. And that's my piece.
Well, I don't know what Carson Wentz really did to deserve that kind of job security, right? I mean, the way they're talking about him is like the same of like Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady, right? I mean, those guys, like Tom, for example, the past couple of years wasn't really that spectacular in New England, right? I mean, nothing really jumped off the page for certain stretches of his final couple of years, and especially last year. More so, this point's more so for last year, but no one was calling for him to get benched and I feel like these people are putting Wentz in the same category as Tom Brady. Like, what has Carson Wentz really done to earn it? Your one Super Bowl came from a backup quarterback who's currently getting benched by Mitch Trubisky. You know, like, I don't know. I don't know what Carson Wentz did to earn this parade, Ryan. That's why I always ask you every single time. I'm like, what did this guy do to deserve this? But I feel bad for Jalen Hurts. I think he's got a lot of poise. I really do. The mistakes are obviously going to happen, but like I said earlier, I forget about what, Ryan, but it was about Andy Dalton, right? So in 2020, you know how hard it is for a rookie quarterback to kind of get acclimated in with all the precautions and, you know, different kind of schedule and Zoom meetings. How much are you really going to retain as opposed to physically being in the facility and all the time, especially during the offseason when the pandemic was still, everyone was still kind of learning how to work through this, right? So he really wasn't in the facility as much as most rookies would, so the mistakes are going to happen. And then when Peterson throws him in there for like one play a game, right, to do like the QB draw or to be a decoy or something, he's not going to know the feel of an actual NFL game until he starts it for multiple games. So, yeah, I feel bad for the guy. I really do. Not Wentz, Hurts, I feel bad for.
Two things. One, people are going to respond to that take you just said with, well, what about Justin Herbert? That's different. That's a completely different situation.
Herbert's a top 10 quarterback.
Yes. Herbert was a very, very talented guy in hindsight. And I say in hindsight because I was not high on the guy at all, as were a number of other people. Clearly, it was Oregon that was misusing him because the guy is extremely talented. That's a different situation than what Hurts was. And number two, Donovan McNabb is the best quarterback in this franchise's history. I don't care that Foles won the Super Bowl. I don't care about Cunningham, Jaworski. I don't care. McNabb, statistically, any measure you want to use, was the best quarterback in this franchise's history. He never was defended to any level like Wentz has done. McNabb has actually accomplished things. At his peak, he was a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. And not just for 1 year like Wentz was in 2017. For a number of years, McNabb was a top upper echelon quarterback. I'm not going to say elite, but he was upper echelon. He never got defended. People always, from the moment he was drafted, people hated him. And he never got the respect that he deserved. Even after he was traded, even after he retired, never got the respect he deserves. Even today, people don't respect him the way that they should. And he actually accomplished a hell of a lot more than Wentz has. And I'll go out on the limb and say more than Wentz will ever accomplish. I'll go on the limb and say that. But for whatever reason, this fan base has this weird inclination to just coddle Wentz and act like he's their son, who just, it's so weird, the infatuation this fan base has with Carson Wentz. I think that's what pisses me off more than anything. People paint me as a Wentz hater, this and that, and then I always have to respond by saying, I want the guy to succeed, but I'm going to say when he's doing things wrong. Why do you constantly defend a guy, and why is nothing ever his fault? It's never Carson's fault in the eyes of a lot of people in this fan base. Oh, it's the coaching staff. Oh, it's the front office. Those are problems. I agree. Those are definite problems with the organization. But put some blame on the guy that just got a big-time contract extension. Put some blame on the guy that's supposed to be the face of your franchise. Put the blame on the guy that's now in his 5th year and still makes the same mistakes he did in 2016 as a rookie. Put some blame on the guy that has had one good year, one solid year, and everything else has just been not very good at all. Put some blame on the guy because he deserves it. He doesn't need to be coddled. He doesn't know you exist. He doesn't care that you exist. He's not going to help you out with anything. You're allowed to blame the quarterback of your team if he's not playing well. It's not a weird concept.
You know what the funny part is, too? Well, I want to second your point on McNabb. For those who listen, obviously we have a lot of North Jersey friends or people that didn't grow up near the Philly area. I could second the fact that McNabb was... People forget how good Donovan McNabb actually was, Ryan. I mean, I remember, as a kid, the hate that guy got, just for one bad game. Meanwhile, they're on their way to like an NFC title game appearance or something, or even the Super Bowl that one time. I mean, obviously, every quarterback's going to make mistakes, but I think it's a good point. I mean, it pales in comparison to the way the fan base treated McNabb. And he's the best quarterback they had. I agree with you 100%. I mean, growing up in the area and then hearing stories from my family about the guys that came before him. And I also think, too, Ryan, Carson Wentz was a top 2 pick in a draft, right? I think you have to be criticized differently. You have to be able to take that criticism, right? If the fact that his feelings are hurt, that he's benched, and I feel like he lives in this world of no accountability. I mean, there was games early in the year, Ryan. I remember when they played the Giants, he just walked right into a defensive tackle that was blitzing him, right? I mean, or a guy like the pressure coming in on the pocket, he would just walk right into people and get sacked. So, I don't know. I feel like the accountability doesn't match up to the guys that came before him, right? I mean, even Michael Vick, too. When the years that he was an MVP candidate and was playing really well, I mean, the fans still let him have it, too. But there's some weird fascination with Carson Wentz that I still can't get behind.
I've never seen it in this city. I've never seen a fan base, our fan base, get behind somebody for no reason in any sport. Comparing someone like Wentz to anyone else in any other sports, this fan base gets upset and blames these athletes for almost anything. There are very few athletes in this city that have ever gotten by without blame. And if they didn't get blamed, there was a good reason for it. Like Chase Utley never got blamed for anything. And that's fine. There was never anything to blame Chase for. He was a top-tier professional. He worked, busted his ass every day. Never got blamed for anything. But for the most part, every other athlete in this city has gotten some type of blame at some point. They've had to battle through some type of adversity. Whether it's the Sixers with Embiid and Simmons, who have gotten flamed day in and day out for years. The Eagles, this organization, the fan base doesn't blame Wentz. They blame everybody else on the team for whatever reason. The Flyers, I've seen Drew get blamed at least for a decade, it seems like, at this point. It's a little less than a decade. I'd say about 7 years, ever since he became the captain. It's just weird. I don't understand. I don't understand it. And the point that you made about how...
Ryan, remember, Bryce Harper is now getting that treatment too,
yes,
despite having...
Yes.
That's probably the best example.
It blows my mind. And you made the good point too, how whenever Hurts makes a mistake, people are always like, oh, the Wentz, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And you made the good point that these guys have to be evaluated differently. One guy has been in the league for 5 years, and he's making the same mistakes that he made 5 years ago. He has not improved. The other guy is a rookie in a COVID year. They need a second-round pick, not number 2 overall, a second-round pick. They need to be evaluated differently. So it's just my overall message is that I don't understand why we're so infatuated with a guy that doesn't deserve it. And I know that by saying this, I'm going to be painted as a Wentz hater who doesn't want the guy to succeed and wants to see the guy fail, whatever. If that's how you want to paint me, what the hell ever. Just maybe do a little self-introspection and wonder why you're defending a guy that doesn't deserve it. That's all. And with that...
Yeah, one final point on Hurts. He's learning his third different offense in 3 years.
Yes.
Just everyone needs to be mindful of that. He went from Alabama, then played a year at Oklahoma, now here in Philly. So Carson Wentz has been in the same offense for 5 years. Hurts has been in his third offense in 3 years. So in all of them, mind you, very different from one another, at least from someone who is very, not X's and O's. They kind of approach things differently. So you got to give the guy a break. He's also our age too, right? I mean, like, we're sitting here and people our age are blaming Hurts and not holding Wentz accountable, who's older and had a more consistent time in college, right? Because remember, Hurts got benched at one point in Alabama because Tagovailoa came in and then he transferred. I don't know. I feel bad for Hurts. I really do. I think this was one of the more not so great situations he could have put into compared to like Herbert or Tua. So I hope he gets embraced by the fan base because I think he's a good player. Do I think he's going to be a franchise guy? I don't know, but I would sit down and watch him every week. He's a hell of a lot better than the way my quarterback's playing right now. So
I'm going to leave you with one final stat. Wentz is still in the league lead for sacks, and he'll probably end in the league lead for sacks despite being benched for the final month of the season. Sacks are not just an offensive line statistic. I feel like people forget this, and that was one of Wentz's biggest flaws coming out of college. It's been one of his biggest flaws his entire career, especially this year. This goes back to what I said. Don't blame other people all the time. Wentz deserves a lot of blame for his issues and regression this season. If you actually watch the games, you would see multiple times he doesn't move well in the pocket. He has stone feet. He just walks right into the defensive linemen, the defensive pass rushers. Just learn that it's okay if a guy's not playing well to say that, okay, this is at least partially his fault. It's not just stop with the coddling. The guy's going to be 28 years old in 2 days. He doesn't need your support. He's not a kid. He's an athlete that just signed a big-time contract extension that makes him unmovable. So with that said, we're going to move to Major League Baseball. And there was the stove, it was off for a while there, but somebody last night, they turned it on. They turned it to, I'd say they turned it to about a 9 on the little knob there. The stove just started. They didn't even let it heat up a little bit. They just put full blast because the San Diego Padres acquired Blake Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays. And in return, the Padres, pending medical record and evaluations, are going to get Luis Patino, who was one of their top prospects, Francisco Mejia, who was once a very well-regarded catching prospect who just really hasn't gotten it together yet fully. And then they also got a couple other prospects in Blake Hunt and Cole Wilcox. I saw some takes floating around that if this is the way the Major League Baseball system works, that the system is flawed, and I get that to an extent, but this is probably the one situation where a team trading their top player, one of their top players coming off of a World Series appearance, it makes sense. Because the way Snell was utilized in Tampa Bay, I can't imagine he wanted to be there. They never gave him a chance to get quality starts. He got pulled in a World Series game that they had the lead, and he was pitching very, very well. This is probably the one time that something like this makes sense. So I'm excited to see what Snell can do in San Diego. I think that they're going to let him pitch a little longer, and I think that'll be good for him. I think it'll be good for the organization. But I think that Tampa Bay got a major haul back for a guy like Snell. I think that it was very respectable, and I think especially with a guy like Patino, who I think is going to be really good, I think he'll, maybe not this year, but I think eventually Patino will just slot right into the rotation, and you won't see a talent decrease. So I think this was a good deal for both sides, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that take too, and I said it as a joke. It's a bold strategy to trade one of your best players. But everyone remembers, right? And we talked about it the day after it happened or whatever. How he reacted when he got pulled, right? And I think that's how anyone would react in that situation. And I joked in the group chat yesterday, I'm happy he's going to be on a team that's going to allow him to pitch deep into games. And, he comes with some question marks with durability and stuff, and that's okay. But for San Diego, Ryan, as a, outsider looking in, I think the fans are going to be so happy that they're going all in, right? I mean, this is a fan base that has been starved for any kind of something that's better than like mediocre play for the past 2 decades. You and I mentioned it back in October. This team really didn't scratch the playoffs for a better part of a decade and a half. Obviously, getting in, winning a series, and making a little noise, you're going to have to go out and load up on some people if you're going to beat the Dodgers. We talked about how they have all these people. They went out and get more guys. And I keep saying it. People forget they have David Price just sitting there. He opted out this year. He's going to be back next year. His arm's going to be rested and ready to go. So there is a lot of pressure on San Diego to go out and get people. And if you got to trade prospects, I think do we put them in the small market category? I mean, San Diego's kind of a tweener kind of market, I guess.
Regardless, they're a mid market, I would say.
But for the situation they're in, they got to take advantage. You have one of the faces of baseball in Fernando Tatis Jr. You have a whole bunch of other really talented players that are on the younger side. I love this deal. And for Tampa Bay to get back this kind of haul, Ryan, considering the fact that Snell probably wouldn't have really came back to the team if they had the money or didn't. Everyone knows the story. Tampa Bay is going to play on a budget every year, ball on a budget. He was going to cost a lot of money. Probably didn't want to play there anyway. So, sure. I think it's a good deal for both sides. I really do. I agree with you that, both teams get what they wanted out of this.
I think people forget that San Diego acquired Mike Clevinger. And then, unfortunately, Clevinger is going to have to get Tommy John. So he's going to be out for 2021. So they had obviously a hole in the rotation that they weren't necessarily expecting, and to fill it with Blake Snell, who I would argue is probably better at his peak than Mike Clevinger, even though I love Clev. And now they're in conversations to get you Darvish from the Chicago Cubs. Apparently they're in deep conversations was the last thing that I saw. They made a signing today from the KBO for Ha-Seong Kim, who is one of the best free agents available, and he's not going to perform as well as he did in the KBO, but still it seems like he can be a really nice threat in that lineup, assuming that they're going to let him start, which I think that they will. I think I saw that they're going to let him go to second. They're going to move Cronenworth to left. And you look at this Padres team, it is, even if they don't get Darvish, you have a rotation now with Snell. You have LeMay, who just had an incredible season. You still have Chris Paddock, who I wrote about on our site, the first post that I ever wrote. He struggled, but I think his issues are fixable. That's an enviable top three, and then not even to mention, you still have Mackenzie Gore, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, as long as they don't trade him for Darvish, which I don't think they would. You have Adrian Morjon, another prize prospect in his own right, and Zach Davies. And then you have, as you mentioned, Tatis. You still have Machado. You have Cronenworth, who finished third in Rookie of the Year voting. Trent Grisham. Eric Hosmer looked better. I mean, there's a long way to go, but this team could compete with the Dodgers, I think. And I agree, it's fun to see them going all in. It's fun to see different teams become contenders. And I think I saw before the trade that they were tied for third in World Series odds, but now I think they're probably third on their own. So I can't wait to watch this team. This is going to be a fun team to watch, just like it was a year ago. And I really hope that they can compete with the Dodgers. I think that would be good for the sport.
Yeah, and remember, obviously, last year, injuries kind of affected their rotation in the playoffs. I'm assuming and I can't remember this off the top of my head, they're reverting back to the old format of the one-game play-in, right? Or is that something they haven't decided yet?
I can't tell you.
So if they do, I can imagine they're going to revert back, because that's even though that's something, all four of us in our group chat, Ryan, enjoyed the all-day baseball for 3 straight days. Assuming they go back to the old format, assuming the Dodgers are still going to be better than you, you're going to need a surefire guy to win you that one game, right? And with Clevenger out, as you mentioned, and Lamet had a great year, but you need to build off of it. So that's not a give me. So to go out and get a guy in Snell, you have that insurance that on that one night, if you're assuming all the stars align and you're not playing the format that we did this past year, then that's a really good pickup. So I think they did what they had to do. I think for the Padres' sake, I think they have to draw the line with Gore, though. I think it would be a really bad decision for them to give up him to get you Darvish. I really do. I get how Darvish played last year, but long term, you got to take that into consideration too, considering the amount of mileage that Darvish has already.
Yeah, and I don't think Preller's a smart guy. Obviously, the farm system he's built in San Diego, and then the players that are currently on the major league roster. I don't think he would trade Gore for the tail end of Darvish's career. But I mean, I've been surprised before. I found a report, by the way, that MLB and ESPN are negotiating for broadcast rights for the 2021 expanded playoffs. I don't know if it would be 16 teams again. I don't know, maybe if they would maybe go a little lower to prevent under 500 teams from getting in like they did this year. But I don't know. We'll see. In any case, this is the best, obviously, the Padres have probably been in our lifetime, I would say. I mean, this is the most talented. This is one of the most talented teams in baseball. And it'll be fun to see. And listen, if they get Clevenger back at his peak from Tommy John surgery in 2022, this team is people. I saw some people say that they're mortgaging their future to just try to compete with the Dodgers. This team's going to be here for a while. This team has a lot of young pieces. They're not just going to go away. And the fact that they were able to... Oh, go ahead.
No, I don't like that point of mortgaging the future to compete with the Dodgers. Someone's going to have to challenge them at some point. They've had a monopoly on this division for the better part of a decade. Like, I think that's kind of a lazy mindset to say, we'll wait 5 years from now, maybe the Dodgers. They have the money to just keep being good, right? I mean, the ownership group and the management and the fact that it's Los Angeles, right? I mean, they're never going to be bad for an extended period of time just because of the amount of money that's around the Dodgers. They're like the Yankees. The Yankees can't be bad for, or at least this current kind of sport or state of baseball to where there's so much money involved in these bigger market teams, that it's hard for teams like New York and teams like LA to be bad for a long time. So someone's going to have to go and challenge them. It's what the Red Sox did for a couple of years with the Yankees, with Dombrowski. Someone's got to do it out west. So anyone who says that narrative, like, it's silly. You want your team to go all in. I'm sure you want your management team to go all in for the Phillies, right? You have one of the best players in baseball. So I'm tired of the wait and see, especially for baseball too, Ryan. You know, you can't bank on some guy in like single A being the savior of your franchise.
Yeah, it's
It's
frustrating to see. You made a good point. It's frustrating to see other teams be proactive and not clearly not worry about the money they lost. When I see my team having some financial issues, apparently, that's frustrating. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm happy for the Padres, and I think that they deserve this.
Yeah, I'm just happy to see some new faces. Like you mentioned, I think too, it's just nice to see some teams getting into the mix. You know, I think that's safe to say across the board. I'm sure a lot of people are happy that the Patriots aren't going to be in the playoffs this year in the NFL. I'm sure there were people in the NHL when Detroit ended their long playoff run. Some people were happy to see some other teams get in the mix. So unless you're a fan of teams like I am, it's good to see some new faces get in. So it'll be fun. It'll give me a reason to stay up and watch West Coast baseball.
I've also seen the take that this is turning into the 2014 offseason, which was the year that Preller, I think it was his first year. I don't remember exactly, but it was one of his first years, if not his first, when he got Justin Upton, Matt Kemp, Will Myers, and Derek Norris, and people said that the team was going to contend and they didn't do anything. This is different. The team is a lot different than that team was. That was a pure example of just trying to build through a bunch of nationally known guys, and it didn't work. But they have a lot of young talent that they built on their own, and now they're supplementing that talent with outside pieces. This is different. So don't listen to me. Don't use that take either. I've seen so many bad takes flying around about this move. Don't just use your head is my request, please. Not just for
Their
sports.
players are also good. I mean, when you compare the guys they have now to B.J. Upton, I mean, no disrespect to B.J. Upton, but he went to San Diego and hit like under 200 for a great majority of the time. I mean, I remember because I had him on my fantasy team that year. So, yeah, I disagree with that take too. I think that the roster is exponentially better. I described that offseason, Ryan, so there's a difference, right? And I'm trying to pull examples as I'm giving this take here. It's like a money grab take. That's a money grab offseason to put butts in the seats, right? To just go out and get big names, try and generate some kind of revenue. That's what you do for that. The examples will come to me eventually, but you go out and just get big names and hope that brings fans in. And for San Diego, a while, stadium Petco Park didn't really fill up all the way because they were bad for so long, rightfully so. But it's totally different. I agree. We're just stomping on bad takes this entire podcast, Ryan. Jalen Hurts bad takes, Andy Dalton bad takes. Now we're on San Diego Padres bad takes. What else are we going to squash today?
Yeah, I feel bad just stomping on all these people's bad takes, so I want to take a break from that, actually. And let's get into some more lighthearted kind of things, because I think we've taught people enough today. I think that this was a good session. So let's move into some segments. By the way, we are doing this during a Monmouth basketball game, and there was they consider it to be a SportsCenter top 10 play, Matt. I don't know if you had seen it. It was quite
I had to turn it off.
They tweeted it out 13 minutes ago. It was quite the dunk. It was off of a missed 3-pointer, and it was. By the way, they're absolutely demolishing Canisius. So it's exciting to see them playing as well as they are. But
they look fantastic.
Yes, they do
this season. Canisius did not so great a job of boxing out there. It was a pretty good dunk.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
I would throw this in the top 10, or depending on what else happens today.
I hope eventually that that Monmouth plays well enough to get into the mid-major madness top 25. We'll see if they do, but they've looked promising so far, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time to
So
be a Hawks fan.
what else makes this dunk really impressive is that Ruddy is ahead of schedule coming back from Achilles injury, I think. So to be able to get this kind of bounce, it is really impressive to see, because you see how long it took Kevin Durant to come back from an Achilles injury. Obviously, I think that was probably worse than what Ruddy went through, but to get that kind of bounce on a putback dunk like that is pretty impressive from an Achilles. So, yeah, that's exciting. I had to turn the game off. I'm upset now because the connection was getting bad with our little video chat here. But I got the stats up. So Pappas watch, Ryan George Pappas, hot start to the year. He's got 8 points right now. Yeah, they look really good. They look really good.
Yeah,
It's a shame too because fans can't be in the stands, and they're having a pretty solid year. Offensively, I mean, 66 points. They had 54 going into half, so the offense kind of slowed down a little bit. But 54 at the half, 69 overall now. It's really impressive. So Coach Rice has a good team this year on his hands for sure. The talent's really coming together.
it seems like it. As you said, it's a shame that it's happening in a year where people can't really enjoy it as much. But one of the segments we're going to do today is a new segment. Woohoo! So one of my smaller gifts this year was this thing in my stocking. It was America's Big Four Sports Trivia. And basically, these are 100 questions that we're obviously not going to do all of them today, but we'll do a few each episode just to. So I went through them already, and I got more wrong than I thought I would. There's some really simple questions in here, but there's actually some that I had no idea. So I think it would just be fun. As I said, I probably should have kept track of my score, but I will say I got a fair number of them wrong. I don't know the exact number, but I thought it would be fun to just see what our co-host could do. And just see if we actually know as much about sports as we make it out to be. So we'll go through, just as I said, a few of them each show, and we'll see how it goes. So, Matt, are you ready for the first question?
I am. I got the sun in my face right now from my window. I don't know if you could see, so I'm powering through this podcast right now.
All right, so I will say that some of the questions, not on this card in particular, but some of the questions, they're worded a little weird, but I'm just going to read it exactly as the card has it. So, question 1, Herman Boone was the coach of the 1971 T.C. Williams High School team that inspired what 2000 movie?
Coach Carter. I'm
Wrong.
assuming this is basketball you're talking about. I don't even know.
It's Remember the Titans. It's tough.
Unimpressive.
These things are tough.
I actually have not seen that in such a long time. Might have to add that to the list.
All right, well, here's a good bounce back question for you. In football, when a defender decides to leave the defensive backfield and attack the ball carrier immediately at the snap of the ball, what strategy is he using?
That is a blitz.
Mm-hmm. All right, there we go, on the board.
Well, you can't ask me a lot of movie questions. I'm going to get a lot of the movie questions wrong. I'm not a big movie guy. I mean, Glenn likes to joke, I grew up watching college basketball, and, for the most part, that's true. So don't ask me a lot of pop culture references, because I'm not going to know them.
I'll try my best. There's not a lot of them. As I say that, the next question is a movie one. You might know this, though. What movie stars Paul Newman as an ice hockey player coach for the fictional team, the Charlestown Chiefs? It's a good movie.
What? Oh, you've seen this?
I have. It's a funny movie.
I don't even... If you probably told me, I would know. I have no idea.
The movie is called Slapshot, and I would recommend it
Never
to
heard of
everybody
it.
It's a great movie.
Never heard of Slapshot.
All right. Now, they have some anagram questions in here. I'm not going to do those because those are It's tough to think of those on the spot. I don't think it would lend itself well to a podcast form. But like, so the example for this, like mini alarmism is an anagram of which baseball team? And that would be the Miami Marlins. So that's tough to think about regardless. So in baseball, what bases must a runner be standing on to be in scoring position?
Second base or third base.
There you go. You saved yourself. There you go.
No, I couldn't tell if you said bases or not. That's why I didn't know if you said what starts it, but second and third.
The Miami Sharks are coached by Tony D'Amato, played by Al Pacino, in what movie?
What sport is this?
This would be football.
Oh man, I don't watch a lot of football movies.
This was a 1999 movie, very long movie, 2 hours and 42 minutes. Did 100.2 million at the box office.
I should probably know this then. I don't watch a lot of the movies I've watched are basketball or baseball related.
Had a crazy cast. It had Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, Jamie Foxx, James Woods, LL Cool J, Anne Margaret, Al Pacino, directed by Oliver Stone.
Al Pacino coaching a football team. I got to watch that. I don't know, Ryan.
Any Given Sunday, 1999.
That's me too many movie questions.
It's just how the cards were.
And then I'm going to get the text message from Glenn in 2 hours saying that I botched the whole movie section.
It's not. It's just how the cards were. There's not that many movie questions. They just all happen to be at the top, I guess, because I reshuffled them. In baseball, what is the name of the circular weight that players can place on their bat to use during warm-ups?
What, the donut?
There you go.
Yeah.
Back on the board.
I used to love those.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were the cool kid in Little League if you had one of those. I used to just borrow somebody's. At least I viewed people as a cool kid that had one of them.
All right. How many this is a good one for you. How many seconds does a basketball player have in which to inbound the ball before they get a violation?
5.
There you go. Look at that. 2 in a row. And
I was about to say, if there's a shot clock question, it's probably going to be outdated, depending on when they came out.
These are actually pretty recent. So, when did the NFL hire its first female official, Sarah Thomas?
That was recently.
It was recently. How recent?
Oh God, I think it happened sometime when we were in college. Can you confirm that for me? Or I don't know.
Yes, I will say
in
yes.
college. All right, you know what? 2017. There we go.
You were
That's
close.
My answer.
It was 2015, so we were just in college. We'll do one more.
That's a very specific question.
Yeah, some of these are very specific. I don't think you're going to get this one, but it's fun to guess. Which number jersey is the most retired number in the NHL?
In the NHL,
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. It's a single digit.
7.
Close. It was 9. I said 8, so we were both close. We're going to end this one with a great question that I'm sure will not cause any issues. In 2016, which San Francisco 49ers quarterback started the Take a Knee national anthem protest against police brutality?
Colin Kaepernick.
There you go. All right. So we got 5 right. We only skipped 2, so that's a good start. So out of the first, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did 10 questions basically because we skipped 2, and you got 5 right. So you're at 50% right now. It's a good place to be at. So that's cool. So that was America's Big Four Sports Trivia, new segment. The movies were a little rough, but other than that, I mean, Matt got most of the pure trivia correct, which is good.
How are we putting the movies into the Big Four though? Because I feel like some of those movies take place outside of. Are we Big Four sports or Big Four leagues?
Big Four sports.
Okay, then it fits under the umbrella. Monmouth, by the way, now has 75 points. So whatever I said must have jump-started the offense. 4 of their last 4 from the field, by the way. This team, Ryan, might not lose a game this year, outside of the 2 that they already have.
No, we're big Monmouth fans, and so we're excited to talk about Monmouth a little bit on the podcast today. Be really cool to be in the press conferences, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to go too far with that, but
King Rice has my vote for Coach of the Year
Yes,
already.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
King's a cool guy, man. We like King here. We're a pro King podcast. Disney Plus and Glen. We did not do this last week because we decided to talk about holiday stuff, which was fun. And we're back on it this week, though. And this was a movie you were excited for. Pirates of the Caribbean, however you want to say it. The Curse, how do you say it?
Caribbean.
Okay. I know that's a
I don't
polarizing
think- is there
topic.
I think you're a Caribbean guy because you said that first.
I'm not going to say which. I'm just that I wanted to get them both out. Just who's to say? The Curse of the Black Pearl. So this was released in 2003. It's described as a 2003 American fantasy swashbuckler film, and it was 2 hours and 23 minutes. Captain Jack Sparrow arrives at Port Royal in the Caribbean without a ship or crew. His timing is inopportune, however, because later that evening the town is besieged by a pirate ship. The pirates kidnap the governor's daughter Elizabeth, played by Keira Knightley, who's in possession of a valuable coin that is linked to a curse that has transformed the pirates into the undead. A gallant blacksmith, Orlando Bloom, in love with Elizabeth, allies with Sparrow in pursuit of the pirates. Release date June 28th, 2003. So this was the how do I want to say this? I'm bringing up my watch list real quick. I want to confirm. Yeah, so this was the first non-animated movie we've watched for Disney Plus and Glen. This was the first live action, and it was. I don't want to make it seem like I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was a solid film. My score would probably be somewhere in the sevens. I think probably low to mid sevens. I didn't get into it as much as I got into the animated movies. I don't know why that is, but Glenn had mentioned that this had a great score, and I agree. Anything with Hans Zimmer is gonna be great, and so he was part of the crew that composed the music for this film. Big Johnny Depp guy. I'm not gonna get into what's going on in his life right now, but I'm a big Johnny Depp guy. I hope that he comes out better on the other side of what he's going through. But yeah, I mean, Matt, you had mentioned this is why Glenn had chosen this movie, because you had mentioned you wanted to do a rewatch of the franchise. So did it hold up to what you remembered?
Yeah, I agree. From the Johnny Depp perspective, it's crazy not watching the movies for so long and remembering how good of a job he did in it. Mm-hmm. Something that, dude, this sun, by the way, is like blinding me right now.
You're battling through it.
I genuinely forgot, because he's done so many different things. So you got to chalk it up to the versatility that the guy has on the big screen for sure. But it took a minute, to jog my memory to get back into it. But it did live up to it for sure, Ryan. I know you don't want to come across as a hater right now, but it was good. It was good for sure. It was definitely a good change of pace because we were watching a lot of animated stuff, as you said, with a lot more of a musical influence into it. So it's good to kind of get a nice little adventure in there on the great seas. So
yeah, I don't want it to seem like I didn't enjoy it. Like it was good, right? I would watch it again at some point, but it just compared to the other movies that we've seen so far, I don't know. I like the other ones more. I don't know why that is. I don't think it was just because it was live action, because I know other Disney live action things I'd probably enjoy too, but I don't know. But it was good. I want to make it clear, it was a good film. It was a good film. As I said, my score would be in the low to mid sevens, which is still a good score. That's a solid score. It's a solid movie. I can see why people like not only that movie but the franchise so much.
I think when we rank them, we got to split it up: live action versus animated. So if once Glenn starts infusing more live action stuff, then those rankings will make a little more sense to be able to separate it. I think we're going back to animated this week, Ryan. I think he assigned us. Well, didn't he say to watch? Or is that a special one? Or are we double dipping this week?
We could double dip. I agree. So he had said that we needed to watch Soul, and that was the movie that released on Christmas Day on Disney Plus. I have not seen one person say a bad thing about it. I've seen multiple people say it was their favorite movie of the year. I now that's a lot of hype going into something. It's going to be tough to live up to that kind of hype, but I've seen a lot of great positive things said about it, so I'm excited to watch it. I don't know if that'll be our movie. We'll wait for Glenn to give the assignment, but yeah, I'm excited to get back into the animated realm this week for a movie like Soul. It seems like a good movie, man. I don't know. It's as I said, I really haven't seen any bad things written about. It has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Which is pretty good. I know it's a new movie, so that'll go down eventually, but that's impressive. 97%, 206 votes. That's impressive.
Yeah, so we might have to double dip. I had one joke spoiled for me on Twitter that they threw in there. A sports related joke for anyone who wants to get a nice little sports joke. That's in there. Saw the little clip of that. So yeah, we'll give it a watch this week, and then we'll add it. I'm interested to see where it compares. But some people showed some of the visuals on Twitter, right? So we live in a world now, Ryan, where I can't go on social media without something being spoiled for me or something, right? So like the Mandalorian season finale was spoiled for me. I think it was for Glenn. He went on a TikTok and it was the same thing for him. But I saw some of the visuals. They looked really good in terms of just like stills. So I'm interested to see the whole film. So we'll do a little double dip maybe. We'll propose that to Glenn.
Yeah, I agree. We still do need to watch Tangled. I don't know when we're going to get on that, but I know that's a movie that we have to have on the list of things we need to see. But I mean, there's so many movies that we can watch. So we'll see what Glenn says, but I think we're going to end. Is there any, am I forgetting anything, Matt? Is there any other things that you would like to say before?
Yeah, I got to pop my tarts.
So
this goes back to when, not so much in college, but when you were in like grade school or even high school, right? You get like the people who say, right, when you were right about to go on winter break, they see you next year. You know, like the people that joke about it because like, oh, you're not going to see each other until the new year. That's what pops my tarts. Retroactively pops my tarts from back in the day. And I know those people mean well and it's a nice lighthearted joke, but we get it. We're gonna be back in the next year kind of thing, you know. So the see you next. That's what used to pop my tarts. A retroactive pops my tarts.
Okay.
Were you one of those people that said the see you next year, or am I like directly offending you here?
I'm not gonna confirm or deny. So we're gonna. That's okay. That's how we're gonna end. Next week we'll get to talk about the NFL playoffs. The bracket will be set, so we'll get to talk about that. We will get to, maybe there'll be some more baseball hot stove stuff we could talk about, hopefully. We'll have to wait and see, but it'll be a new year. It'll be January 4th, 2021, our first 2021 episode. So that's exciting. So be sure to tune in for that. On our website this week, bestavailableplayer.com. We are going to have a best of BAP 2020. So we've been in existence for 4 months, and we asked our staff their favorite things that they did for the website, and we're going to compile that all together. And that way you guys can see some of the best of the things that we did in 2020, and hopefully we'll have an even better 2021. So I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode. We'll see you guys again next year.